The Department of Public Health and Human Services is pleased to bring you Aging Horizons. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, fraud, legal issues, veterans benefits, and caregiving. Aging Horizons is a program dedicated to inform and prepare Montanans on these timely issues, making a difference to you and your loved ones. Here now is today's program host.
Today on Aging Horizons, we are going to be talking with Emma Smelzer. She is the administrator of the Family Transition Project, and she's going to be telling us all about an amazing program that's happening in the judiciary that is all about mediation as opposed to working through the court system when you're filing a parenting plan or a dissolution of marriage. So some really wonderful information about that program and how it can help the people that you love in your life. So stay tuned to Aging Horizons.
Medicare loses $60 million in Montana each year, $70 billion nationally. Medicare processes 4.5 million claims a day. They don't know who your doctor is, but you do. Mistakes can happen. Read your Medicare statements and call Montana Senior Medicare Patrol if you see anything unexpected. 1-800-551-3191. This project is supported by a grant by the Administration for Community Living.
Every 65 seconds, someone is affected with Alzheimer's or other dementias. Many become isolated at a time when help is most needed. If you or someone you love is affected, help is available, both for people with memory loss and their caregivers. Memory loss can feel frightening, but you are not alone. Call the free 24/7 Alzheimer's Association helpline, 800-272-3900, for guidance and support.
45 years, 2 packs a day. That's like $80,000. I thought I was just hurting myself until I fell asleep in a chair with a cigarette. The whole house went up. I lost it all. I knew smoking was expensive, but I never thought it would cost me everything.
I've been shooting since I was young. It's something I've always enjoyed. I wasn't feeling like myself when my friend noticed. He asked if he could hold onto my guns temporarily. At first, I was a little shocked, but then I agreed. I think he saved my life that day.
Welcome to Aging Horizons, brought to you by the Department of Public Health and Human Services. I'm your host, Katie Lovell. And today we are speaking with a good friend of mine. Her name is Emma Smelzer, and she is the administrator of the Family Transition Project with the Judiciary Department. Emma, thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you for having me. It's really good to be here.
Emma, you have a fascinating history as to how you got into your position. So can you tell me a little bit about your educational background, how you became the Emma that we know today?
Yeah, so I grew up in Montana in Stillwater County, Columbus, right between Billings and Bozeman on I-90, or a bit more poetically, my dad used to say that it's where the plains meet the mountains in Montana. But I left just after my freshman year and was away from Montana for about 15 years. And most of that time I was studying and or practicing some version of conflict resolution or peace building. So I kind of got the bug at my college in Vermont, which is called Bennington. And they had a really short course. I think it was only 3 weeks, and it was on this thing called mediation that I'd never heard of before. And in fact, I remember being a little bit skeptical because someone said this class is about people talking through their problems. And I was like, well, surely if people could do that, they'd be doing it already. Like, right. Where is this coming from? But as soon as I got in the room with these professors who had a great deal of experience really leading people through conflict, I realized that there was really some magic in this way of approaching things. And I think part of the reason it feels so compelling to me is that this is the way that all of our ancestors solved conflict for such a long time. Sure. In all of our various communities, because the basic premise is when we disagree or when we hurt each other, there are ways to work through it that don't involve never speaking to each other again or ostracizing someone. So I think I kind of caught that bug there. I studied it quite a lot more during college, and then I found my way to a Peace and Reconciliation Centre in Northern Ireland. It's a place called Corrymeela. They started just before the period that's called the Troubles, and they really pioneered a lot of techniques in real time to try to deal with the really intense violence that was happening in their communities. So I got the opportunity to live and work there for 2 years, and I think really got the sense that if this place was pulling off a transition to more peace, that could happen anywhere. Yeah. So right after that, I came back to Montana really briefly, and I was kind of thinking about how could we implement a little bit more of this. At that time, I became a victim advocate for my local sheriff's office, actually in Stillwater County. And so I got a sense of the types of harm that happen in all communities in Montana and how important it can be to really stand by the people who experience that harm.
Sure.
And that was an extraordinary experience. I still carry it with me in lots of ways. After that, I was still really thinking about conflict resolution, all of these methods of talking about hard things that I encountered in Northern Ireland. And so then I went and got a master's in conflict analysis and resolution at a school called George Mason University just outside of DC in Virginia. And that was amazing because it was a really kind of subsection of all of these people thinking about conflict of every level imaginable. So there were people who were planning to be diplomats and try to sit down heads of countries and get them to talk to each other. There were people who were focused on kind of anti-terrorism and kind of these larger topics. And then there were also people who were thinking about more community level disputes. So how could we reroute conflict calls that come into police stations that really are just about neighbors fighting over a fence line rather than any crime actually having happened.
Sure.
So lots of inspiration there, lots of really amazing stuff. And in the end, after I graduated there, I decided that I did really want to spend some time being a full-time mediator. And so I found this organization in Indiana. It's called the Center for Community Justice, and it was the very first place in North America to have a program that focused on victim offender reconciliation. So post a criminal process, if the person who was harmed by a crime and the person who caused that harm wanted to sit down and talk about how to make things right, then we facilitated that. So that was extraordinary, lots of hands-on experience. And then after a little bit, I really just missed Montana. And then when I came back,
it's easy to do.
This opportunity with the judicial branch came to be, and so it seemed like a perfect opportunity to take all of the things I've been thinking about and bring it back home.
And you've been in this position for about 3 years now.
Yes, yeah, since the very beginning of the program, when it was really just an idea floating in the air.
And over that time, the Family Mediation Project has looked different. You've continued to evolve it from the original idea to where we are now, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the through line is that we want to provide a more peaceful and less stressful path for Montanans through divorce and parenting plans, because we know it's a really hard road, but the goal is to provide as much support as possible and give people some alternatives when they start thinking that that's the road they're headed down.
Absolutely. Well, when we get back, I want to talk a little bit about what family transition means and a little bit more about what is mediation, because I think it's a topic that I think we've all heard the word, but not everyone really knows what that means. So make sure you stay tuned, because we've got lots of really great information about what the Family Transition Project is, how you can get involved, and a little bit more about what mediation is at its very base level. So make sure you stay tuned to Aging Horizons.
Hey caregivers, did you know that respite time is your time? How will you spend it? We love to get outdoors, so if we have any free time, that's pretty much where you can find us.
Bailey Tolson, East Helena.
We love to hike. Any chance we get, we're out there. And of course, there's always date night.
Montana Lifespan Respite. Respite for caregivers. It's okay to need it. It's okay to want it. It's okay to get it.
To learn if you're eligible, call 1-800-224-6034.
We love date night.
You've probably seen some big-name celebrities on your TV lately talking about all the Medicare benefits you're missing out on. But the insurance companies who are paying for these ads may be pushing benefits not available in Montana. Fortunately, help is available from a friendly state health insurance assistance program counselor who can help you sort it all out. It's free, and we screen everyone for eligibility regardless of your zip code. It's Montanans helping Montanans. Call today.
Did you just text me?
I didn't want to disturb you if you were sleeping.
Sleeping? I'm sitting right next to you, silly.
There you are. Hey, I found a couple of Medicare helping programs online that I think we ought to look into.
It says if we qualify, we can get help paying for our prescription drugs. Oh, and there's a program that can help pay our Part B premium.
To learn more about extra help and Medicare savings programs, call your local SHIP counselor today.
Maybe I better text him.
A decade of Montana fourth graders on Energy Share. If you're having trouble keeping your home warm this winter, Energy Share of Montana is here to help. We've helped thousands of Montanans who are having trouble paying their energy bills, and getting assistance from the friendly folks at Energy Share is only a phone call or Google search away. Energy Share is not a government program. It's neighbors helping neighbors who face energy emergencies. The Montana way. Call or visit our website today. Thanks to Energy Share, I'm cozy like a bear.
Welcome back to Aging Horizons. We are speaking with Emma Smelzer, and she is the administrator of the Family Transition Project, and we're talking all about mediation. So, Emma, tell me a little bit about the Family Transition Project. What is it?
Yeah, it is a program that offers free mediation, legal advice, and child support consultation to people who are going through a divorce or need a parenting plan. So the idea is kind of that you get the chance to make decisions yourself about what the next stage of your life looks like with the other party, and rather than kind of giving those decisions up to a court so that a judge can make that decision for you.
And how did the program get started in Montana? Was it statewide right away, or?
No, yeah. So this came from the judicial branch, which is the place that employs me. That's, the Supreme Court all the way down to different levels of court. And they have been thinking about ways to make the family law process better for people without attorneys, because court is really hard to understand unless you've studied it like attorneys have. So when actually the American Rescue Plan Act money came to Montana, and that was the COVID relief money, there was an opportunity for different state entities to apply for grants. And so the judicial branch said, this is our opportunity to think about some things we sort of had in the wings, waiting in the wings, that we wanted to support, and one of them was better access to family mediation.
Sure.
So that's, specifically mediation for divorce and parenting. And so they submitted a grant proposal alongside Montana that's the name of my program, Montana Legal Services Association, which is a really fantastic nonprofit that serves many people in Montana, and kind of envisioned this overarching program that would give access to lots of different people in Montana to mediators and legal advice. So we started with a smaller pilot. Only a few districts signed on in the beginning and gave us a real sense of how it was working. And now I'm happy to say it's statewide and available to anybody across Montana.
That's amazing. I think the term mediation is one that we've all heard. We've all heard the term mediation, but I think you can think of it maybe in like corporate mediation. Maybe you've seen it on television. But what does the word mediation mean?
Yeah, mediation means having a conversation about something that's kind of difficult with the help of someone who's trained to guide that conversation well. Ultimately with the goal, in this case, of coming up with a plan for the next stage of your life. So that looks like the details of what your divorce is going to look like, what your parenting plan is going to look like. I think the main thing to understand is that mediation puts the power kind of back in your hands, because mediation is voluntary. No one forces you to make any kind of agreement. And in fact, the mediator makes no kind of assessment about what's good or bad.
Sure.
They're there to kind of support you to talk with each other about what the best plan is. So you really get the chance to speak with each other about what's important in your lives, and how to match that up with the things the court expects and needs you to make decisions on.
And I know a lot of the family law cases that we deal with sometimes have an element of a disproportionate power dynamic, where maybe there's some domestic violence, or maybe there is one of the partners who doesn't feel like they can speak up about their wishes. How does mediation address situations like that?
Yeah, I think in some ways mediation is really designed to handle situations like that. One sort of technical thing about how it works is that the mediator will meet with both parties individually beforehand. So if you were part of a mediation, the mediator would call you up and say, hey, what's going on? Tell me about what's important to you. Tell me about concerns you have about speaking to the other person. And mediation is so flexible. I mean, it has this overall format, but you can make lots of decisions about how it will actually work based on what works best for both parties.
Sure.
So, for example, if you have a situation where things have gotten really, really bad between two people, maybe there's been domestic violence, maybe they just are in a situation where seeing or speaking to each other directly is not going to be good, there's a kind of mediation that we call shuttle mediation, where those two people stay in separate rooms completely. You don't see or hear each other. The mediator goes back and forth and kind of relays, this is what she wants related to this. What do you think about that? What can I tell her in return? And that is one end of the spectrum, but it could also look like maybe there's someone important in your life who just is kind of a calming presence and would help you stay grounded as you think about making these hard decisions. So maybe they can be involved in some way. So the mediator's really there to craft the process around you and make sure you feel as comfortable as possible.
And one of the things that's so wonderful about the Family Transition Project is, I mean, mediation is amazing, but you offer some additional services in the program. Can you tell me a little bit about those?
Absolutely, yeah. I think that because of the complexity of the issues that come with the family realm, we wanted to give you as much expert advice as possible. And so each person gets their own lawyer to ask legal questions of. They can give you advice about what you should or shouldn't do. They don't fully represent you, so they won't follow you into court or anything like that, but they can really support you through the process. And even more exciting, I think, is that we have people who are really great at understanding child support, so who can help you navigate that really complicated area.
Absolutely complicated system. Great. When we get back, I want to talk a little bit about how someone applies to get into the program. So make sure you stay tuned, because we're going to tell you all about where you can find information about the Family Transition Project, how you can apply, and how family members can have conversations with their loved ones about applying for the program. So make sure you stay tuned to Aging Horizons.
Can you say ombudsman?
Ombudsman. Benson?
Uma Doodlesman? Fortunately, you don't have to say it right to get the help of a long-term care ombudsman. If you or a loved one reside in assisted living or long-term care, an ombudsman can help resolve any issue. And these services are completely free and confidential. Now, why don't you try that again?
Ombudsman.
I was the last guy you'd expect to get diabetes. I was a competitive runner and I always took care of myself. So when I was diagnosed, it kind of threw me. But it's really encouraging to know I'm not alone with it. There are a lot of other people going through the same things as I am. It takes some effort. You have to keep after it. Exercise, meds, and diet are the key. But there are a lot of folks who want me to succeed. Diabetes is not the end of the world. With effort and attitude, you can have a normal life.
I think the most pleasant surprise when we turned 65 and signed up for Medicare Part B was finding out about our Welcome to Medicare preventive visit.
It was free, and it gave us the opportunity to visit with our doctors and establish a plan for our health going forward.
They reviewed our medical history, measured our height, weight, blood pressure, and counseled us on other risk factors.
To learn more about Medicare's free or low-cost preventive and wellness benefits, call your local SHIP counselor at 800-551-3191. I mentioned it's free, right?
Twice.
Elder abuse is a growing problem, and it's happening right here in our Montana communities. At least 1 in 10 older adults are victims of physical or emotional abuse, financial exploitation, or neglect. To get help or report elder abuse, call your local area agency on aging or Adult Protective Services at 1-844-277-9300.
Welcome back to Aging Horizons. Today we are talking all about the Family Transition Project, and we're talking with Emma Smelzer, who's the administrator of the Family Transition Project. Emma, this has been such a great conversation, and I know that what people really want to know is how do they apply for the program?
Yes. If you or someone you love, you might be interested, it's really simple. We have an online application form that's kind of the best way to get started. You'll see the link for that on the screen. You can also give us a call or send us an email if you just want to get some more information or see if your situation is right for the program.
And what are the general program requirements? What would make someone eligible for the program?
Yeah, so essentially it has to be a Montana case. So you have to either have already started filing something in a Montana court or know that your case is going to end up in a Montana court, because we can serve cases at any stage of the process. You also need to have kids, so we want to be working on a divorce with children or just a parenting plan. And then at least one of the parties, so you or your ex, need to be qualified financially, which is something you can talk with our intake staff about. And also, at least one of you needs to not have a lawyer, because part of what we're providing is legal advice. So we just want to focus on people who need that part of the program too.
And I know that there are probably a lot of people watching that have a family member that they could maybe think might benefit from this program. But that can be a really tough conversation to have with someone. What are some ways that people might be able to share resources in a really positive way?
Yeah, I think one thing that I've learned in this work that I think is really powerful is that a lot of people kind of feel like divorce or separation is a failure, like that they've already let their kids down, that their kids are going to be traumatized forever. And thankfully we have really amazing sociologists who've done a lot of research on this, and what they show is that it's actually not the separation or divorce that is really hard for kids, it's the conflict around it. Sure. So I think my main kind of pitch for mediation is that this really is a less conflicted way to handle these really hard decisions. Yeah. And that I think that is ultimately better for the two of you as you part ways, and ultimately your kids as well.
Absolutely.
And then I think the other really important element that I don't think I've mentioned yet is that this is an entirely free program. And as we all know, divorce can be extremely expensive. Yeah. So if you qualify with us, every bit of it is covered. You're also very likely to qualify for fee waivers in court. So you literally might not have to pay anything to get this process sorted and get on with your life.
Which is really amazing for folks. Mm-hmm. When folks complete the program, they've successfully made it through mediation, the attorney consultation, the child support calculation. What's the end goal? What happens at the end?
Yeah, so there could be several different things. If you do come to agreement on all of the issues that you need to, then the program will help you file that paperwork and get kind of your decisions in front of the judge. The judge will make a final determination. There's some things they need to go through to make sure it's all kind of fair and goes by the book. But ultimately, I mean, right now we're finding that judges really appreciate when you've done your best to make an agreement, yeah. And that often that goes through really smoothly. They may have a final hearing with you if there is anything that they want to discuss directly with you, but that's usually how it goes. We also sometimes have people who come to agreement on some things, but not everything. And so in that case, your mediator would help you write up a description for the judge of what you agree on, so that when you get to the next hearing in court, you can just focus on the things you already know you disagree on and that you need the judge to make a decision about. And even, we've had some people who, even after all of these resources and conversation, still can't quite agree on anything. I still consider that a success. I think the closer you get to understanding what's important to you and what you want to see in this agreement is still really helpful in the court process. And at the very least, you'll have gotten to talk to a lawyer, get a chance to kind of reflect more on what's important to you and really the other person. So in that case, the mediator would just say, we met in mediation on this day and we didn't come to agreement, and so we request that there be a hearing and the court process go on from there.
And one of the things I love about this program is people can choose to enter into mediation before ever filing anything with the court, correct?
Yes, yeah, and that's really, especially you heard a bit about my background earlier, that's the part I love, that this can truly be an alternative and stay away from kind of the adversarial process that is typical in court, where you have to file something, the other person has to respond, it's kind of set up to be an argument. Whereas if you engage with this before you do any filing, it can really feel like a collaborative process. Hard one still, it's always going to be hard, but it can feel like you're in this thing together and that you're trying your best to make the best decision possible for yourself and your kids.
What a great way for folks to be able to think about something that is so incredibly challenging. And one of the things I love about mediation is it really takes that sort of, the mediator's not going to make a decision, and they're also not representing either side. So there really is just a neutral party there to help facilitate those really hard conversations.
Yeah, and actually really one of my favorite ways of thinking about a mediator is, yes, absolutely neutral, not going to sort of favor one person over the other, but actually that we're on both sides at once. And the goal is really to make this process the best it can be for both of you, make sure you say what you need to say, and really that both of you get the most important things you need out of it.
And really that it protects your kiddos, which is, I think,
Absolutely.
everyone's first goal. Yeah. Well, Emma, thank you so much for joining us today. That was so helpful and so wonderful. And make sure that you go out and check out those websites, send Emma an email, give her a call. And if you have a family member in your life that could benefit from that Family Transition Project, reach out to the program, because it is absolutely free and absolutely wonderful for our families in Montana. So thank you for watching Aging Horizons. I'm your host, Katie Lovell.
Special thanks to the Department of Public Health and Human Services for their continued support. Hosts on Aging Horizons are program specialists at the Montana Office on Aging. Production facilities provided by Video Express Productions. For more information about Aging Horizons, call the Department of Public Health and Human Services toll-free at 800-332-2272.